Well, to say that I'm excited about this particular project is a massive understatement. Welcome to a GT40. It is not every day you see something like this roll through the shop. I'm used to working on Rivians and Teslas and, more normal stuff, if you will. But something like this is truly unique, and wow, I'm so excited to have the opportunity to work on this thing. Now, this detail is going to be very extensive. I'm kind of estimating around 40 to 50 hours I'm gonna put into this vehicle, going through doing a full paint correction, because the paint really needs some love. Detailing the interior, detailing in these clamshell areas. This thing is truly going to be a big challenge, but I think it's gonna be so worth it in the end. Thought it'd be amazing to bring you guys along, because this is definitely not something you see every day. Welcome back to another out of spec detailing video here from Clear Detailing in Northern Colorado. Let's jump into it. So before we go to nerd level 9000 on detailing this thing, I want to talk a little bit about exactly what this car is. This is not an original GT40, but this is actually made by a company called Superformance, and they make vehicles that are a continuation build of the original GT40, as they call them. So they don't consider this a replica or a kit car. The reason being 90% of the parts on the original car work exactly the same way as this car does. So a door would fit, the front clamshell, the rear clamshell. That is what Superformance does. So taking a vehicle, basically going down to every single last detail to make it as close to the original vehicle. Now that extra 10% changes a little bit from what I understand in my minimal amount of research to be some suspension changes, a little bit in like electrical fans, air conditioning, and like this particular vehicle has a front end nose lift on it because the front end is so darn low. The cool thing about this particular car is my amazing customer actually wants to drive this thing. He's not gonna just shove it in the back of the shop, just stare at it. It's not a museum piece. This car has actually already been driven from California, where it had its engine put in, all the way here to Colorado. So it's definitely had some abuse. The crazy thing with Superformance vehicles is they're actually made in South Africa. Now, sometimes they don't come with the engine in them. They get shipped to a shop in California, from what I understand. The engine gets put in, some other accessories as well, and then the customer can actually take delivery of it. So this car has been painted for 2 years, and it's definitely seen some abuse. So it's obviously been shipped across the ocean in a container ship. So think about all of the dynamics you have to deal with there. It's been in shops. It's had the clamshells off multiple times. So there's definitely some rub marks. I'm seeing a lot of sanding marks, a lot of rotary marks on this thing. So it's really here to get dialed in. Now, talking paint, this thing, from what I'm kind of, thinking it's gonna be very soft paint. It's non-metallic black, shows absolutely everything. But when I've worked on Superformance vehicles before, their paint has actually been pretty decent. Now, is it, $100,000 paint job level? Absolutely not. But it is extremely nice to, really big production vehicles, if you will, like something like a Tesla. Not bashing Tesla, they make a heck of a lot more cars than something like a GT40. Superformance here. So that's going to be a challenge. Now, the other challenge with this car is the intricate details. I'm going to show you around some areas that I'm a little not concerned with, but that I'm going to have to be cautious with. These panels are fragile. So you have fiberglass here and there, and that heats up differently than normal metal, and yeah, it can flex and move. So we need to be very cautious with this thing, and that's at #1 priority, is not to damage anything here, of course. Now, on the paint, you guys will notice we have stripes and roundels. The nice thing about this, these are actually not stickers. They're painted on, they're actually under the clear coat. So we're gonna be diving into that, seeing how everything reacts here. But yeah, this project is going to be truly special. Now, this thing is actually quite small. I hope that comes through on camera. The height of this car as the name represents, is 40 inches tall, which is just insane. So we're gonna be putting it on the lift so that I can get to the lower areas without laying on the ground. Just makes a higher quality detail. But I think now I'm gonna bring you around, I'm gonna get out my lights, show you the current condition of the paint, kind of what we're dealing with, my thought process through this whole thing, and then we'll actually get into, like I said, the nerd level 9000 detailing. So as you can see, very, very intricate car here. So we've got huge vents like this. We've got NACA ducts here. We've got very, very tiny areas like this across the Lexan windows. We've got the helmet bulge here. All these little areas need to get properly polished and dialed in. I have a feeling this area is going to be a massive trick. We've got to get up into this area as well without, damaging any of this fiberglass in here. Definitely going to push my limits as far as detailing. And as you guys know how I do it, I don't just quickly polish these things, slap a coating on them. Like I said, I think this is gonna be a 40, 50 hour detail, if maybe not even more. We'll kind of see once we get into it. All of these vents back here, these are gonna be insanely tricky to polish around here. Areas like this around all of those rivets, those are very, very tricky to deal with because you get a lot of contamination when you're getting your pad up into this area, picking up those metal particles, if you will, and actually scouring the paint. Now, as far as washing, a few things I'm concerned with. I talked to the customer, he's already foamed this down, washed it, and he told me some things to look out for. And that's very important on vehicles like this. This car is a new car, if you will, but it is not sealed like a modern vehicle, like something like a Kia or even like an Audi or whatever, straight off the line. So this is actually an open vent here. He was saying if you get water in here, it does go into the interior. He said it's not a big deal, but I'm gonna do my absolute best not to do that. Now, all the seals, even around the doors, again, not sealed like a modern vehicle, so we have to be very cautious of that. We're not gonna be blasting huge amounts of pressure at this vehicle. Probably going to be using a higher degree tip on this to give less pressure, more water flow, and probably rinse away from areas like that. Now we have Lexan windows here, which are gonna be tricky. These have 0 seal on them, and he already told me, he said, this area down here on the actual door pools up with water. We've also got this window vent here. A little bit of rubber or I guess this is probably foam here. That doesn't really seal at all. So need to be very, very cautious about that. Another area I'm a little concerned with is headlights. So same kind of material that is there on the actual windows. And again, no seal here. Let me show you this driver's side one. This definitely already has had some water get in it and kind of pool up here at the bottom, as you can see. Now, I would love to take that headlight lens off, clean all that up. I don't want to start taking too many things apart with these. These are hand-built cars, so you have to always keep that in the back of your mind. Very, very fragile material here. If you get this one a little too tight, you crack that thing. Not really interested in dealing with that. We've also got a bunch of areas like this, the hood push pins, that I need to be mindful of and watch out for. Big vents like this. We've got electrical components down here. Don't want to be blasting a ton of water. Now, you would think a lot of these are waterproof, but if you're going in there really, really, really trying to pressure wash this thing, you can get yourself in some serious trouble. So this car is not filthy, right? It is dirty though. And like I said before, this car has been driven from California to here. Definitely have some brake dust. The crazy thing is this car was driven through the rain. Can you imagine seeing this thing on the road while you're on your commute to work, blasting through the rain? Freaking nuts. I know under this clamshell, we'll be taking this off later. Tons of rocks, water spots, dirt, grime, everything under there. You can see back here how much rocks this thing picks up, just like a pile of it. So we're gonna be tidying all that up later on. The main focus right now, get this thing washed and then actually start the paint correction phase. And we're gonna go through the whole paint after I get it washed. Before we get this thing wet, I'm gonna open up the door here, just like a Tesla door handle, pretty crazy. look at the interior of this thing. So this is actually right-hand drive, shifter on the right side. I am 1000% sure I would never fit in here, but yeah, just insane. We'll be talking about the interior later on, but this area here, this window seal, I'm actually going to be putting some towels down here to kind of soak up that water that I'm thinking is definitely going to be coming in here. Again, our big thing here we need to make sure is we're not getting water everywhere. So you can see we've definitely got some seals here, but yeah, definitely not going to be sealed up like a normal car. So let's get these towels put in here and just kind of soak up any of that water in these areas. We'll do this on both sides just to make sure we're not damaging anything. So I've actually already foamed this twice. So I foamed it originally, which you guys saw, rinsed it off, and then re-foamed it to get all that debris off. Now time to start the hand washing process on the GT40. Great, so now that all the hand washing is done on here, pretty gentle hand wash if you will, so not really dealing with a ton of dirt, but we definitely want to get all that off to help with the paint correction process. Before this dries, we're going to start washing. Now I did want to mention on something like this, you may want to invest in a system back here like my filtered water. Again, I'm thinking about that as water going into areas that are almost impossible to reach. If you have something that's deionized or filtered, you're not going to leave as many water spots like as you saw up there in the headlight. So using that filtered water throughout this whole process, not a huge deal as far as expense on there, but definitely something to consider. Maybe you live in Arizona where these filters really take a serious beating. Here it's not so bad. But let's get this rinsed down and then we're going to move into our drying. Well, you join me outside the shop here, dried off, and like I said before, no half shafts in this, so we got to push it out here. My dad's here to help me to get this thing up on the race ramps, but I wanted to, while I had the opportunity, to take a look at this paint. Look how deep these scratches are in here. We've got rotary trails everywhere. My customer wasn't kidding when he said, yeah, I'm really kind of disappointed at the current condition of this, so super glad we are taking the time to do a full paint correction. Look at the headlights here. I'm really going to want to try and focus on those as well, but definitely the paint needs a full paint correction. And yeah, really not what you want to see on a car this special. So like here in the NACA duct, look how swirly, rotary marks. Yeah, this is always the detailer's signature, and honestly, I'm not too surprised. A good paint job, but yeah, some finishing stuff. So I'm really anxious to get polishing on this, see how it looks. We'll definitely go through a little more things once we get it pushed up here, but definitely want to take this opportunity and make sure we can see all this craziness in here, just ghost and haze everywhere. Well, here we are in the bay with the lights off and my ever trusty scan grip light. So I obviously showed you guys outside the paint. It looked pretty bad, but I've already just wiped this down with isopropyl alcohol. We did have to move it, so you'll see some fingerprints here and there pushing it onto the lift here. Now, the scan grip light, what I want you guys to look at, when you're seeing the light source on the actual paint, you should be able to look around it on a perfectly polished paint and see nothing, essentially. So it should be crystal clear around there. but let me show you what's going on here, because man, oh man, do I have my work cut out for me. So starting here on the nose, you'll notice this really hazy spot. Let me kind of bring it in. See all that haze in there? That's DA haze. Now over here, all those kind of wispy marks, that is rotary. So you can see the difference here. Rotary marks up here, and then this is DA haze. So probably using a very, very heavy compound. Now just initially looking at this, my brain goes to, oh boy, this paint is ultra, ultra soft. So something we're gonna have to deal with, and I'll talk more about that in a bit. But here on the nose, again, rotary marks everywhere. Look at here in this vent, just heavy scratches everywhere. Headlights really look quite terrible. Here on kind of this fender area, this whole clamshell. Yeah, lots of deep scratches in here. Seeing some really deep nibs in this area, as you can see maybe right there. Wow, okay, we definitely got our work cut out for us here on this one. You can see this corner right here, see how this is white? That's compound left in there. That just drives me nuts. If you're polishing on a car like this and you don't take stuff off like that, I'm not surprised the paint looks this bad, in all honesty. So let's look up here on the roof. Yeah, just holy smokes. Wow, we got a lot of work. Look at this area here, guys. That looks absolutely horrible. I'm kind of in shock right now. I can't really believe this looks this poor, to be quite honest. But yeah, this is what you deal with. And I always get the question, well, why does the car take so long? Well, I can look at this and look at this until I get it washed, IPA taken down. I never know what I'm really getting into. So we're really gonna have to play quite a bit here. You can see, look behind the wheel here, heavy rotary marks here on the deck lid. Yikes. Oh boy. Yeah, this is gonna be some work here, guys. Look at this light source here closest to me. These are deep, heavy scratches here closer to the window. Man, this thing, whew. Okay, well, that's what this is all about, is getting all this stuff off. You can see more compound here in between the panels, all around here. Man, I really hate to see that. Honestly, I'm kind of shocked here, guys. So you're seeing this on camera when I'm seeing it. And yeah, we got our work cut out for us here. So just heavy scratches, heavy haze, heavy rotary marks. Kind of worst case scenario, if you will. Again, lots of DA haze up here where it's over here, rotary, and then somebody used a very heavy compound. Look at the Lexan here. You can nearly almost not see through it. It's so cloudy. So we'll have to play with that, see if we can make that look a bit better. Wow. So this is stuff I run into all the time. Now on this particular car, just looking at the paint seems soft. I haven't even touched it yet, but I'm telling you, just from my years of detailing experience and seeing how this has hazed up, looks really soft. This specific area right here shows me kind of how soft it is going to be. So what we're going to have to do is play with compounds, play with polishes, figure out the best case. Of course, our goal here is to remove the maximum amount of scratches and leave paint. So that's kind of the tricky part. This full fiberglass body, I can't read paint on this. So I'm working in the dark here. It's of course already been polished. So yeah, this is a very challenging detail. This is not something an amateur detailer wants to tackle because you can get yourself into some serious trouble here. So what we're gonna end up having to do, I'm gonna do some test spots around the vehicle, different compounds, different pads, figure out what works. I probably have 20 different compounds. If you go too heavy, you're gonna create so much haze like this on the entire vehicle that it's gonna be very challenging to finish out. Sometimes you have to go with kind of medium to light polish, if you will, and then final polish it. So a 3-stage. What I would prefer to do would be to do like a medium cut compound. If this paint's soft, all this is gonna come out quickly. Have a compound that finishes down relatively nice, and then do a jeweling polish on it to where you can 2-step it and you get the maximum amount of results. We're just gonna kind of have to see what's what in here. I truly don't know until I put a buffer on here, and that kind of decides my fate. But yeah, really cool to be able to see this kind of before, and then of course we'll show you after this thing is done. But this looks, holy cow, yeah. And just to show you guys how deceiving this is, look at the paint right now. Like honestly, you would probably walk in here and go, wow, this looks cool. But that's why this place is designed how it is. So I have different lights for different situations. These really show a lot of orange peel texture, really deep scratches. The nice thing is when I'm looking at it here, I'm not seeing a ton of really heavy scratches. The paint actually lacks a lot of orange peel, which is really good. I think that had to do with a lot of sanding and polishing that they did on this, but definitely not to our standards. Now I see pretty heavy scratch in this area here, some water spotting, things like that. So my impression, again, it looks good. And this is why it is so important to really test out your detailers. You could walk around this thing and it looks like it's done. You throw this up on Instagram, get thousands of likes, you're like, I'm the man. And then somebody goes, hey, what's going on here? And you see all that stuff. Really, really deceiving. So make sure you guys, if you are looking for a detailer, make sure you take that into consideration. And we are now on to the actual paint correction phase. You'll notice, yeah, still a ton of rocks. I'm gonna leave that alone. No sense in cleaning something, getting it dirty after the paint correction and then having to re-clean it. But I just did a little test spot here and some interesting stuff goes on here. So I'm gonna show you again. This is up here, lots of scratches, lots of rotary marks, and this is my test spot. And you're gonna go, well, Colton, that looks absolutely way worse. And I would agree with you, but we are getting to where I want to be. So when you're compounding here, the whole point is to remove scratches like this, which we have to use abrasives on. So I could definitely get this polished out. Now I went to my #1 compound that I use on 99.9% of vehicles. This is Ultra Cut. Now it is a heavy compound, but a lot of the times it finishes out really nicely. So that one test spot told me, wow, we have really soft paint. So what we're gonna do is I probably got 20 different compounds. I'm gonna start bumping down, try little test spots around here and see how it reacts. So again, I did 2 passes on this, like lightning quick, like going, you know, like this, where normally you're moving pretty slow, overlapping. I went very fast on that. So that tells me kind of on a good thing, to where I got a lot of that out, but we're dealing with a lot of haze, which is kind of a nightmare to deal with polish. So I'm gonna try more of a medium compound in another area, see how that does, and then we get into blending. If the medium doesn't maybe cut enough, then maybe you mix that with Ultra Cut here, and then you can kind of get your ideal mix. So it's really this trial and error thing. And I'll spend 30 minutes to an hour getting this figured out to see what the paint likes, what it doesn't like, and make sure that I'm being efficient with my time, efficient with the vehicle, and not going too aggressive and not going too light. So it's this very fine balancing act. And this is what I go through on every single car. A lot of the times, like a white Tesla or a green Rivian, I'll hit this on there and bam, it makes it nearly perfect, little to no haze on it. So this is very soft paint. It does show a lot. But yeah, as you can tell, that's pretty heavy haze. I'm gonna have a difficult challenge getting that polished out. But let's keep moving on and see what we can figure out here. So I spent probably 20 minutes or so testing out different compounds, different polishes, but using the same pad. Now typically what I like to use is Meguiar's microfiber. It gives me a good cut. It takes residue off and then I can blow it out. I have a full video on exact paint correction, but I really just want to focus on what I'm seeing on this. And this is, again, this car is not really for the faint of heart. This is a pro level detailer, needs to figure this out because this is definitely tricky. It's even kind of tripping me up a little bit, and let me show you. So again, we have our original spot here, and that was the CarPro Clear Cut. Pretty happy with that. Took all of the deep scratches out of there, but definitely left it hazier than I would like to see. So I just got this compound in. This is Sonax Cut Max, and from what I can tell, too heavy. So this scratch here, as you may be able to see, Probably would need to go over that one more time, but the haze in here is a lot heavier. So that's kind of X-nay there when I can get the same amount here with a little bit finer haze. It's really hard to pick up on camera, but in person, that's what I'm seeing. Now here's something interesting over here. I did these two kind of air vents here, and I have the old Meguiar's M05 and their upgraded version, the 110. What's really interesting is the 110, their newer one, is up here, and it hazes it way more than the 105. This actually looks pretty good. Again, on camera, it picks up everything, but I hope you can see a little bit of difference of the top one, how much hazier it is. Again, we've got some deeper scratches in here. I did a very quick 2-pass, didn't really sit there and grind on this thing, just wanted to see what we're seeing. But this all has to play with diminishing abrasive, so your working time. Does the compound continue to cut if you work it in for 30 seconds or a minute, or do they not have diminishing abrasives? That's all part of this. Now, interesting, I came over here again to Meguiar's, and this is kind of a funny one because a lot of people think this is a weird compound. I think you can buy this stuff at like Walmart. I actually buy it off a pro level detailing shop, but this is some of my favorite stuff on the market. I use it all the time, and it is over here. So what you'll notice is, okay, here's our Car Pro, pretty heavy cut again. Lots of haze, and then you move over here and it's substantially less haze, substantially less, but also did a great job in getting the deeper scratches out. So that immediately tells me, okay, Ultra Cut's too much. This is more of a mid-grade medium compound, and I'm very, very pleased to see how that worked. Now I thought, okay, why don't we try to mix them? And I did up here. And what you'll see is this area has a little bit heavier scratches, so I would definitely go back over this, again, doing quick passes. But this has even less haze than the two of these, which kind of doesn't really make sense, but this is the kind of stuff you get into when detailing and compounding and polishing, when you really become expert level at this. And then finally, what's really interesting, I tried a polish. This is a Rupes finishing polish over here on a compound pad, and it actually hazed it up more than the compound. So it's really interesting to do this. And I do this all the time to make sure that we are using the right product for the car. So I think I'm gonna still continue to play. But I kind of am liking this here. Maybe do a little bit more of this compound than the Ultra Cut, maybe just a small dot here of the Ultra Cut. But this is really getting into the weeds here. This is what you guys come from. This, I'm not really that worried about polishing out. Again, still may have to 3-stage this car. It's not the end of the world, just more time for me. But yeah, that's kind of what you get into. So I'm gonna keep playing here, but I like the direction we're headed and can X-nay all of these. I have been extremely busy since I last left you guys, and let me tell you a little bit about what we did. Well, first off, we gave the paint a wash. So much compound dust everywhere, super common. Every single car that comes in here after a compound gets another wash. So cars are washed actually twice. And when I did that, I actually spent quite a bit of time cleaning up these wheels. Look at how nice that looks. Just a simple green cleanup on here. So spray some simple green, scrub it up, insanely nice. I also spent time in areas like this, cleaning up the wheel wells underneath here where there's a bunch of components. I'll show you that later on. You know, little areas like this around the gas cap, making sure I got all that clean, as well as underneath this huge rear clam. If you remember, we had rocks everywhere here. It's still a little damp in there, but spent a lot of time, probably about a half a day, just cleaning up all those areas in the engine bay. It was pretty dirty. Again, this car was driven in the rain, but that takes time on a car like this. It's so intricate, and that's the big thing I'm taking away from this particular vehicle. So since then, I have also done an isopropyl alcohol wipe down on this, but using a product called Geon Prep, getting all of those compounding oils off of here. And let me show you what we have. So a lot of haze. You also see a few little water spots there. Those will come off super easy, but again, you can still see all of that haze, but most importantly, big scratches are gone. I would honestly say we got about 98 to 99% of those really, really deep scratches out. And then we are now at the stage for our finishing polish. Now, I have somewhat been struggling on these non-metallic, very, very, very soft black paints and doing a two-stage polish like I've done in the past. It's just been some tricky paints, and honestly, I had quite a bit more haze on this one that I would have liked from the compounding, because I just had to really go in there, get tons and tons of sanding marks out. Very, very heavy, as you guys earlier saw in this video. But let me bring you over to this side because I am blown away. So this entire side here, other than down here by the stripe, has already been final polished, only using a two-stage method. So typically what I've been having to do on these cars like this with that really soft black paint is do a medium polish and then do a final polish. So 3 stages essentially. And I've been kind of searching for a polish that fits that build. So it not only gets that haze out, but finishes extremely nice. And I finally found it. So let me show you here what our end result looks like. Now, you are gonna see quite a bit of lint here from the actual towel. It's just kind of this paint's grabby, if you will. It's hard to explain, but it does show some of that. But as you can see, the results are just insane here. Let me show you up here where I've got a nice little 50-50 that I can show you. So again, hazy paint up here. Keep your eye on that light source. You can see all the small little haze around there. And as I come down here, perfectly clear. You can see the depth and change of color there. So kind of grayed out black to just absolutely pure black. Completely blown away with this. And let me show you what I'm actually using on this. So I'm using 2 different polishers here. So this is the LHR 12E, so a little bit smaller throw. I really prefer this. This is a 6-inch Rupes yellow foam pad. And then I've got my trusty one over here, the 3-inch machine. And this is the new polish. So I've used a few of Koch Chemie products in the past, and this is Microcut M302. What's really cool about this stuff is it's getting out that really deep haze, but finishing out to absolute perfection. Like, blown away. I've been sitting over here just smiling with the results that I'm getting in this car. I really hope it comes through. The clarity, the gloss, it is just insane. Like, look at this rear deck lid here, guys. Holy smokes. So really happy to try out this polish, and I've already done the test spots where you polish it, wipe it down with IPA, ensuring that there is no leftover residue or, importantly, leftover haze. The great thing with this, no fillers in it, no really heavy oils in it. So it's really, really nice, really smooth on there. Super pumped with the results here. I mean, yeah, just blown away with it. So I'm gonna continue polishing here. I'll show you some more little 50-50 areas that I find. And yeah, let's keep moving. Finally, the true gloss of this is really popping now. Look at how incredible this thing looks. So, spent the rest of last evening getting this thing properly all the way polished, and today we will be ceramic coating the GT40. So, mainly, of course, focusing on the paint, getting that protected. We're also going to be coating the wheels, but this thing is ready for the coating, and man, oh man, I couldn't be more thrilled with this. Just looks proper, how it should now. And then we're going to be doing all of our final details, but just blown away with the depth, the clarity we got out of this paint. Again, kind of my opinion, not the best paint job in the world on this, which is why the owner decided not to do paint protection film. He wants to drive it, enjoy this thing, and maybe down the road repaint it. But for now, the paint actually looks pretty incredible. So we're going to be coating this with Geon Infinite Base Type 1. This is a certified only coating. You have to be a part of Geon's program to even be able to purchase this and install it, and really going to bring out even more depth and clarity in this paint and give it long-lasting protection. So this is a 5-year warranted coating. Honestly, this car is probably going to have a lot more lifetime span on that coating because it's not going to be driven in the salt here in Colorado. It will see, you know, washes, bugs, probably some rain here or there. But yeah, really looking incredible. So next steps, we're going to get this wiped down with our Geon Prep and start the ceramic coating. So now that we've got our wipe down done, let's get into actually ceramic coating this, putting the protection on here for years and years to come. So a couple things I need to consider here. This is going to be a tricky vehicle to coat, and why I say that is we don't have defined body panels. Like this entire clam, this is basically one piece all the way around here. So I'm gonna have to split it up into sections. A few things with that. When you're coating it, when you do some overlapping of the coatings, sometimes it can get a little finicky, so I'm gonna have to play with that. The other thing is just making sure you're not missing areas. So like this, I can't do this entire half in one go, so I need to split it up into smaller sections. So have to be very cognizant of where you're working at here, making sure the coating's not drying, leaving high spots. So let's jump into this. We're gonna use a 3-towel method here as I crack open the actual coating. Gonna apply some to my applicator over here, and we are going to work in small sections, making sure we're not missing anything. And this coating flashes very, very quickly, so I need to be mindful of that as well and make sure we're not missing a single thing. You can already tell this coating is flashing and it is nearly ready to come off. So I'm just gonna start working in smaller sections, get comfortable with how the paint's reacting to it, and then maybe start expanding out into bigger sections. But I'm gonna first come on here as it's ready to come off, do my circular wipe down on a fresh towel here, making sure I'm over wiping, and crazy, crazy slickness here. That's why I absolutely love this ceramic coating, just insane. I'm also gonna grab a second towel here. Gonna go to a fresh side, making sure I'm getting into all of these areas here. Then again, wiping one more time with a little bit higher nap. Now, lastly, and most important when doing these coatings, I wanna check my work. I wanna bring the light in here, make sure I didn't get it into any of these other sections causing high spots. Look at everything, it is completely streak free, and we are ready to go to the next section now. Again, reapply here. Think about where I was and start working the coating in. So far what I'm seeing, no issues as far as joining where the coating is. Sometimes I'll have that issues, especially on like a GMC non-metallic black paint. The paint can actually swell slightly. This product is actually meant to not do that, but I still see it every so often. And that's one of the biggest reasons I switched over to Geon, is because I was having issues with other coatings. I won't really name them, but definitely a few in the market that were causing paint swelling, and it was becoming a pretty serious issue to where you would get these really deep streaks, pretty much impossible to get out unless you repolish it, and just an absolute nightmare. But that whole top section now fully ceramic coated for about 5 years. Honestly, we're gonna get quite a bit more on here. It looks absolutely perfect. So I'm gonna continue working on here. Probably gonna throw you guys on a time lapse and we'll get this coated. Since the last clip, it has been a couple of hours to say the least, and the paint is absolutely glowing, but I'm starting to work on the finishing details. As you can see here, we've got the absolutely massive rear clam open and working on the engine bay. So let me show you what's going on in here, talk a little bit about what I did. I didn't film any of this. I've spent, 2 to 3 hours just kind of tidying everything up in here. It's very complicated to actually film back here and show you exactly what I'm doing, but I can show you the end result. So originally, as you may remember, there was dirt, debris, rocks, everything, water spots in the entire engine bay. What I actually did when I was washing the actual paint on here is used a very mild simple green solution. Now I like simple green because it's easily dilutable, it's not too aggressive, but it is very effective at cleaning areas. Some of these really heavy degreasers that people get into can actually cause damage to very delicate areas. So it's really, really important that I use stuff that's not gonna damage anything, that's not gonna spot it or corrode it, and that's completely opposite of what you wanna do. Now I've had a little bit of flack for using simple green in the past, but in my opinion, really effective cleaner and really, really works. So this entire area up here, this whole rear clam, as you can see, one piece of fiberglass. I'm sure they kind of mold them together, of course, but basically it is one piece at the end of this. So this area is very complicated in areas like this because you have this almost exposed fiberglass, if you will. So it doesn't really like towels or rags or any sort of anything, but it really holds on to dirt and grime quite easily. So I cleaned all of that up, and after I cleaned it while it was still wet, I used Geon Wet Coat on there to give it a little bit of protection, to make it a little bit easier to stay cleaner longer, and also gave it this nice even application of protection. Now a few other things I've done is clean up areas like this. I've used PNS bead maker all over here. This tiny little nail slot of a window back here actually had some overspray on it. So I went in there, the razor blade, got all that off, cleaned that window, and it's good to go. Also cleaned up areas like the suspension in here and areas like these luggage components using the magical trick of WD-40 on those. Now one area I've really struggled with is this back glass and this shelf, if you will. So when this is actually closed, the air cleaner sits slightly above this, bringing in only cool air from these side vents over here. But the tricky thing is this is nearly impossible to reach the entire area. So let me show you in here. So if I stand at the side of the car, the farthest my hand can go is about here. So getting into these corners, nearly impossible. What I may have to do, I'll talk to my client, of course, and if he wants to pull this off at his shop, I can probably get in there and clean up that a little bit better. But from the standpoint we are, not much more we can do. I've used the extension arm on a towel, but unfortunately, we've got quite a few water spots on the lower edge of that glass. I'm assuming from either driving in the rain or previous washes, almost impossible to dry that area. So it's kind of sat in there, and it really needs a little bit of, you know, water spot removal in there. So really, really challenging. So if I were to say anything, this is not my favorite way that turned out, but you're kind of limited. I really don't want to take this entire thing off without the supervision of him here. So may deal with that at a later date. I'll definitely make a mention of that. But engine bay here, just looking incredible. I mean, this thing is so freaking wicked. Love how the suspension cleaned up here. Love how all the fiberglass cleaned up as well. I think next step, so of course we still have to coat the wheels. I'll show you that. I'm gonna lift the car up. There is no half shafts as you can see in this, so I can spin the wheel around. We're only doing the faces. Again, not taking the knockoffs off. That's one of those things. I would love to be able to take the wheels off, but I talked to my customer. I was like, yeah, let's not screw with that. Of course, we still have the interior. I don't think that needs much of anything other than a quick wipe down and maybe a good vacuum, and of course, a glass cleaning on the windshield. Now the other area is up here. Now you guys haven't really seen up here, but here holds the air compressor, some other components. Tricky thing with this, no gas struts on this, so I kind of have to hold it and work in there. It's very, very complicated to do, just like everything with this car. But man, this thing has been a serious challenge, but just blown away with the results. This is literally about a week's worth of detailing coming to fruition, finally getting finished up. And like I said, I apologize, I'm not filming absolutely everything. This would be a 20-hour long video if I did. So trying to get you the highlights, show you things that I did, and really talk through them, because otherwise, yeah, nobody would ever watch a 20-hour long video. So let's keep moving on. We'll get here in this front section and then tidy up the interior, get the wheels coated. I am thrilled to say we are finally done with the GT40, and boy, do the results and the hard work and lots of long hours pay off. Man, this thing is glowing, looking how it deserves to look now. Just absolutely thrilled with the results here. Definitely a heck of a lot more work than I originally thought. But you know, that's what kind of happens with every detail. Some go a lot quicker than you think, but typically you kind of get into these projects not exactly knowing the amount of time. I originally said, yeah, 40 to 50 hours of work on this, probably about right. We're probably looking more 60 plus. I don't know. It's been literally over a week I've been working on this thing. So, you know, that's kind of the fun part that comes with detailing, is not really knowing. But yeah, I'm just blown away with the results on this thing, and the paint is just glowing now. It is so deep. You feel like you can just reach into it. Man, this is what it's all about, and finally came to fruition here. Let me show you in the interior as well, as I told you I would show you this, as it's all cleaned up now, looking proper. These doors are just wicked on the GT40. I always feel like this is gonna just slice your head off getting in. I actually never got in this thing. I don't think my big butt would fit in here, but really pumped with this. Cleaned up all the instrument cluster here. Interior really wasn't that bad. Just needed a little bit of rejuvenation, if you will. Just some dirt, rocks and stuff. You'd be shocked how many rocks are all over this car. We talked about many times the rocks here, but they are just everywhere. The whole door jamb in here was filled with rocks. Fortunately, got all that cleaned out. But yeah, really happy with the results on this one, and hope you guys appreciate the level of work that goes into these. I do want to start making these videos a little bit more in depth. We'll kind of see how you guys respond to that. Let me know if you'd like to see, you know, couple hour long videos, or maybe make them into multiple videos and I can shoot more in depth. This was just a project that was hard to film, car that I'm very unfamiliar with, and really, really challenging as far as detailing and filming. It's just a very intricate machine. This is just my favorite view right here though. Look at that paint, just absolutely glowing. So thank you guys so much for joining us on another out of spec detailing video with a very, very special machine here. I know a lot of you follow this channel for EV content, but you have to appreciate an amazing, amazing vehicle like this. Thanks so much. We'll see you in the next one very, very soon. Bye-bye.